sharp, straight up 12. First off, I want to thank everybody for coming. We kind of had some momentum going our first couple of meetings, and then we had that enforced suspension. So, to be honest with you, I was going to be happy if I got 10 people, and I've got more than double that. So, I want to thank everyone for coming. It's important that we show unity and organization to our enemies. As I've said before, our enemies are coming. They're coming for our guns. There's no doubt about it. And they're organized. If we don't get organized, they will come for our guns one at a time and bury us. So, and I mean that literally. That's where this is headed. I just read this morning the California State Legislature. Hello, gentlemen. We're coming. Grab a seat. The California Legislature has voted to delete the part of their Constitution that declares equal rights for everybody. This is where the left's gotten to. And they're doing this so they can go after gun owners, white folks, anybody they disagree with. I mean, can you believe this? In 2020, we've got the largest state in the union. They're seriously considering taking the equal rights section of their state constitution out. So anyway, as I said, there are enemies, they're organized, we've got to be organized. Tell all your friends about Ok2A. It's an easy website to remember. Charlie, thank you for coming. Real pleasure, I just saw you. This is Charlie Wilson. He's the local camp commander for the Sons of Confederate Veterans. And Glenn, before y'all leave, let me introduce you to him later, okay? Got a guy here that might be interested, Charlie. Another one of my politically correct groups I'm a member of. Yeah, can't get more popular these days than anything connected to Confederate. Also, I'd like to introduce Mr. J.J. Stitt. He's going to speak here in a few minutes. I'm sure most of you have heard or seen the name. Oh, there he is. Thanks for coming, brother. I appreciate it. That's Mr. Brian Hobbs. He's one of our speakers today as well. He's the very conservative Republican mayor of Newkirk, our county seat. Before we get started, I want to recommend a website to everybody. It's a social media, what do they call them? Yeah, anyway, it's a replacement for Facebook. It's called Parler, P-A-R-L-E-R. Please, when you get home or do it on your phone, log on to there and create an account. What's your name, McElhaney? The president's his press secretary, that sharp blonde lady, McElhaney. She just joined, so I think there's a good chance we may have the president joining Parler. If he does, it's going to take off like a skyrocket. They do not censor political talk or postings on there like it's been happening on Facebook. I think it's just a matter of time before Facebook cuts off OK2A's legs on Facebook. So even if nobody else joins, if all of our members are members at Parler, we will be able to communicate. Right now, the way it's set up, if Facebook cuts us off, it's going to be an uphill struggle. So please, P-A-R-L-E-R. It's not as active as Facebook, but tell all your Facebook friends about it, especially the conservative, the pro-gun, the pro-America, pro-Star-Spangled Banner friends of yours. Okay, first off, we've got a number of speakers in our program today, but I'd like to turn the floor over first to Mr. J.J. Stitt. He's running in the Republican primary on Tuesday the 30th. That's next Tuesday, folks. He's running against Senator Inhofe, who I've only been back in Oklahoma for 3-4 years now. And I'm sure he's been a good senator, but he's 86 years old. If he does get reelected, he'll be 92 if he's still alive when his term finishes. Plus, he's been in the swamp way too long. I don't trust anybody that's been in Washington more than 2 years. And Mr. J.J. Stitt is not only a candidate, he owns a gun store in Kingfisher, Oklahoma, and he's a law enforcement officer. So he's the right kind of folks. I'd like to turn the floor over to Mr. J.J. Sidney. Yeah. Let's all do the pledge. Thank you. Should have put it on my list. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then our Pastor Jack Adams is a pastor here. He's been so generous in letting us use his facilities, and he'll lead us in prayer.
Let's all bow our heads. Father, Lord, right now we just thank you for this wonderful opportunity of being able to gather together. Lord, we see what's going on in our country. And Father, we know that this isn't your will. And we pray, Father, right now that you would make this group effective. Lord, that you would touch the lives and the hearts of people around us, God. And Lord, that you would turn back these that want to take our amendment rights and that want to persecute individuals and people groups. And Father, Lord, we just ask today that you would bless the speakers, that you would be glorified in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank y'all for letting me be here and speak to y'all today. Kay County is a newly formed chapter. I saw your first, 65 or 80 some people that was here on your first meeting.
Our first two meetings, we have 65 and 70 people.
That is actually a good turnout and good, that shows the support. Terry's exactly right. You got to show your support. That way other people know that there's a movement going and how it's coming forth. A lot of it's supposed to be reckoned with is what they need to understand. Yes, Terry, thank you for that. I am a retail firearms business owner in Kingfisher, Oklahoma. We also have a gun range. We carved about 7 acres out of my family farm back on the river. We have just about sand. We got bulldozers. Carved out some berms, built sniper towers, and we actually put down a pretty good facility for it. Campaign trail's taking me away from the maintenance of the facility. I need to go mow, but it's still there and it's still active. I've been a law enforcement officer for 17 years. I'm not going to go for 18. In the height of my career, I went to Houston, Texas, and was part of a federal task force of internet crimes against children. And there my work concluded. It didn't conclude, but it was a chapter in my life that I put away, but I'm glad to be part of it, where I saved countless children from sexual abuse and human trafficking. It was on the thank y'all for that. In the task force, it was actually mandated through the government that you're only supposed to serve 18 months because you have mental anguish processing those crimes. I was even mandated to see a psychologist to investigate these crimes once a month. And I was rather successful in doing my job, and they didn't let me go. So after about 3 years, I had almost to the breaking point and turned that over to some other people. I did my duty. Here we're coming on to somebody else's other duty. James Inhofe is a good guy. He's done so much work for this state, countless years. I like to pat him on the back and shake his hand back at every meeting. Can't get in front of him. I can't get a phone call. I can't get an email. It's time. He's 86 years old. Nothing wrong about being that age. But I want him to go home, spend some time with his grandchildren, enjoy some of his life, and let another young man come take his spot and pick up the reins. When it's time to let it go, it's time to let it go. Speaking of that, when we come forward, the direction that we're going, Terry's right, we're under constant attack every day. President Trump's an awesome president. I love him. But sometimes we get sidetracked and get some things started that's not necessarily where we want to go, and people need to fight back against that. Bump stocks. I agree. Bump stocks is not my thing, but it was my freedom. Not now. Wasn't a voice. No voice of reason. No flip side, the other side of the coin, to console our leaders in Washington, saying, hey, maybe you're on the right track, but let's rethink this, see where we're coming from. It's a freedom. Once you lose it, you're not going to give it back. Get it back. Another issue we're talking about, I don't know if everybody's familiar with it, the ATF is now considering the SIG races. It's on the chopping block. Probably going to lose your SIG races. This kind of affects me a little bit, because I've got several NFA items, which we'll get into in a second. NFA is a horrible deal on my part. But The SIG brace allows you to use a weapon in that, without the regulation. They ruled on it, they give it to us, it's a freedom that we have, now they're taking it away from us. If we just allow it to be taken, where does it stop? Terry says, you give them an inch, they'll take a mile, we will never stop. We have to go and fight back. So, I came forward in my candidacy because Beto O'Rourke was on the national stage telling everybody that he's going to go door to door to get your guns. I watched this and I thought, oh my God, this is crazy.
Beto O'Rourke.
Yes, man, that's exactly right. And he was getting traction and high fives and support, and I started getting concerned. Okay. Then, level heads prevailed. He's not no presidential candidate anymore. I thought a sigh of relief. A month later, here comes Joe Biden, and now Beto O'Rourke is his gun czar designated for his administration. Cannot let it down our guard. I've said that I am the strongest 2A candidate to ever be on a ballot. I have yet for anybody to ever challenge me or say that's not the truth. Everybody knows that I am 100% 2A. My retirement investment was to support homeowners to have firearms, police officers, to have proper equipment on the street. Believe it or not, police officers got to buy their own equipment. It's not provided for you, not like you think. Now, coming forward, take just a few minutes of your time. Thank you, Terry. I'm here all day for this afternoon. I'll be traveling out other towns. I'm the most accessible person that you'll ever find. Pick up the phone, click my name. I will return your message, your phone call. My wife and I, in the last 2 days, we've taken probably 300 phone calls alone. That's not counting text messages and Facebook messages. So, please reach out. Yes, ma'am?
One question, I saw something on the news yesterday, or the day before, and it was probably just a publicity opportunity at the time, but I saw where President Trump had actually endorsed him on it. I kind of shuddered at it, but I didn't know about you.
Yeah, he did, President Trump. Actually, the Tulsa rally was kind of an off rally, in my opinion. But that's okay. It's just endorsements all the time. Not everybody that Trump endorses wins.
Right.
Also, President Trump's kind of in a trick back here. He's got a long-term incumbent same party senator, so he's obligated. I mean, just the political reality of Washington, he's obligated to endorse in all. That didn't mean a thing to me. I watched the whole speech, and that's just part of the political system. He doesn't really have a choice in that. He's got to get Republicans on board, but I guarantee you, he'll have a lot more in common with J.K. Stitt in all.
I didn't mean to.
Oh, no.
Wait that way for him, all that left down there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm here after if anybody would like to speak.
Well, why would a candidate like President Trump make a comment about saying that Biden's already have a good chance of winning in the future? I heard this just the other day, and I was like, why the hell would you say something like that?
Well, we need to be aware. So anytime that there's a issue of voter fraud, it's never in favor of a vote. I have yet to ever find it. Yeah. Okay, man. I'm not saying that that's the case, but I have yet to ever see it.
I'll say that's the case.
So he's reading about these issues to let you know that it's not guaranteed, because impeachment, 1, didn't work, impeachment 2 is coming. It's coming. Riots aren't working. Riots aren't working. What's next? Godzilla's coming over the horizon. I'll be surprised at this point. Well, they didn't build it.
Because everyone's making such a mess of comments about voting by mail, because that's the same line.
Breeding ground for fraud, right there.
Who do you think the Biden president?
My personal opinion, I thought it was going to be good. I think that they're afraid that Joe won't see much of a president.
Okay, folks, we're going to have a discussion session at the end. So I'd like, thank you, JJ. Well, let's take it to the end. We're going to have a complete open discussion at the end of the meeting, and we can talk for 2 hours then if you want. But we gotta get on it. Excuse me, Tom, but I've gotta get the program underway, and we'll have a full open discussion at the end of the meeting. Also, the lady with Mr. Stead is his wife Bonnie. She is a class act. I don't know how he was able to get such a classy lady. I met her a couple weeks ago in Hennessy, and just a great family.
Welcome, Bonnie. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay then, Mr. Hobbs, Brian Hobbs, yeah, he's up next. As I said, he's our conservative, absolute pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment mayor of Newkirk, our county seat. And I personally, he doesn't do this, but I personally call him the rising star in the Kay County GOP. And I'd like to turn the floor over to Brian.
All right, well, okay, I don't know if I know all you guys or not, probably quite a few of you. So, I'm kind of dovetail on JJ here a little bit. You know, we're in some serious times right now. I'd like to come in and butter things up and tell everybody how wonderful things are, but the truth of the matter is this is really probably the worst situation I've seen in my lifetime. As a kid, I never, I talked about this at the Republican meeting a couple of days ago, and as a kid, I never thought I'd see things that are happening today. And we're here for Ok2A, and because we're all, obviously, everybody in this room understands that the Second Amendment is really the First Amendment, because it's the amendment by which all others are defended. And to break it down we're looking at some serious times. I think it's very important right now that people are networking, because, we've gotten way too comfortable, in my opinion, with this social media atmosphere, this computerized stuff. I'm going to date myself by talking about when I was a kid, we had phones that had giant cords that we could stretch across the house. And, but they worked, and you knew everybody's number either by heart, memory, you had it written down right beside the phone. I would suggest that we probably need to start getting back to that. And I'm not doing anything to handicap Ok2A here, but I'm thinking about starting a separate entity that's a pro-Second Amendment organization to where we can, I would like to have a giant, database that we can all print off and have everybody's number by county, by location, by city, whatever that may be. Because as a mayor, there's a very, in today's climate, it's not unrealistic to think that there might be a time where I may need to call some of you guys. I mean, we may need that help. We don't have enough law enforcement. JJ, this, my dad's a retired cop. I was a cop my whole life. We just don't have enough boots on the ground. It's just that simple. And even with the National Guard, we don't have enough boots on the ground. It's just that simple. This is why we had the ability to have a well-regulated militia. The whole existence of the Second Amendment. People are going to come through, burn businesses, burn your neighbor's business, burn your neighbor's house, your friends, your family. It's unacceptable. And it's going to continue until somebody stands up and puts a stop to it. This limp-wristed approach that our government has taken in this matter is disgusting. People groveling over themselves, apologizing for things they had nothing to do with hundreds of years ago, is unacceptable. I didn't do it. Most of us walk around, and this doesn't just go, I'm white, I'm Indian, I've got friends that are black, friends that are Hispanic, friends that are white, friends that are family that are Native. We shouldn't grow up worrying about what color somebody was. It never crossed our mind. Do you treat me decent? Sure. Okay. Well, that's a measure of character. The idea that everybody needs to be, held accountable for this, and again, that our elected officials are capitulating to this idea, just, in my opinion, magnifies the problem, and it feeds the fire. And that, in my opinion, needs to stop. You know, I want to cover too, because I think it's relevant to the Second Amendment, First Amendment. They all tie together, you know, it's all a liberty issue. Like I said, we're here for the second, but, you know, that's because it defends all the others. You know, when this COVID pandemic came out, I was asked, you know, as a mayor, what are we going to do? And, you know, and I had written, and I won't torture the guys who were at the Republican meeting the other day with reading my open letter again, but, you know, the gist of it is this. A lot of men better than myself. I'm a vet, Dad's a vet, both of my grandpas, both of my wife's grandpas. All four of them were in World War II. Dad was in Nam, my brother was 101st, I was 3rd Cav. A lot of better men than me gave their lives so that we could operate freely. A lot of men were a hell of a lot more scared, charging beaches and tank positions and on, sailing the seas, going down to battleships, than a damn pandemic. I'm sorry, I'm just going to tell it like it is. Than whether or not, and if you want to wear a mask, I'm not bashing anybody. If that's what you feel you need to do, that's fine. But the idea that they're going to shut down private businesses that they have no constitutional authority to do is appalling to me. And it's repugnant to the idea of freedom. It's repugnant to the idea of a free society. And if we lay down for this, people don't start standing up and using our voices. The problem is with us, as conservatives, we just go along, we get along. We don't want to stir anything up. And that's why we've been taken advantage of for so long. And it's not just my generation, it's been going on a long time. Because in church, different places, you know, as conservatives, whether it's just our nature, whether we were taught that way, is to be kind, to not create a problem if there isn't one. But, you know, it's kind of like being a soldier. You know, I'm not going to go out and start a fight, but I'm going to be there to finish it. And we need to start taking, in my opinion, we need to start taking that approach as a society. Enough is enough. There's nothing shameful about standing up for your beliefs, and there's damn sure nothing shameful about standing up for the Constitution of the United States of America, that many men and women, millions, gave their lives in numerous theaters throughout history so that we can sit here freely today and do this, but for how much longer? And again, I'm not trying to convince people that the government's going to line people up in the streets and execute them. It's not what I'm trying to tell you. What I'm saying is that our freedoms have eroded year after year, and then, just like JJ pointed out, they never go in reverse. They just keep ticking forward. They just keep taking a little more and a little more. We keep allowing it. We did have a great victory in Oklahoma, constitutional carry. Some good friends of mine were able to pass that legislation, and I couldn't be more proud. Governors did, got to sign that into law this year, or was it last year? And that was a great move. I mean, that was a great victory for us. A lot of people may not understand this, but constitutional carry was never constitutional in Oklahoma from its inception. I didn't realize this at first. I thought, well, what idiot allowed this to happen? Well, it was just never, it was that way from the time that the state was founded. Whoever wrote the founding documents of the state thought in their wisdom that we shouldn't have a Second Amendment. I mean, it's mind-boggling. So we're fighting generations worth of causes. And we're doing it, I got to tell you guys, hold your heads high, we're doing a pretty damn good job. I mean, when you get something as big as constitutional carry passed 100 years after we were statehood, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, so we did get that back, but you know, the thing that the liberals do, they hedge their bets. They're going to ask for 20 times more than what they expect to get. And we got to start doing the same thing. You know, I want fully automatic machine guns. Why? Because that's what the Second Amendment allows. Because every weapon that was designed at the inception of this country was a weapon of war. And if all I can have is a pea shooter, when my own government has M60s, saws, AT4s, HE grenades, howitzers, the whole point of having the Second Amendment was in case they get out of control that we would have a means in which to rein that back in. And this idea that we bow before government, it is foreign to me, but obviously not foreign to a lot of people. And those that idea is something we as a group, as a society, need to start changing. We need to start saying, no, hold on guys, why was this written? And if we don't have those conversations, I assure you the liberals aren't going to do it for us. So those are just things that I'd like to throw at you. Don't be ashamed. Stand up for yourself. And thank God we have the constitutional carry and the stand your ground law in Oklahoma. And maybe get Terry to cover that. If you feel like your life's in danger, you can use legal force. And this is not a problem for conservatives for the same reasons that we've been quiet for so long. We don't go out picking fights. But if you come at me, you come at my family, you come at my friends, I'm going to do what's necessary. And I will take no joy in that. But I will do what's necessary. And we have to have that mindset. Defend yourself, stand your ground. Our voices are just as important as everybody else. But if we don't put them out there, then they're the only ones that are going to get hurt. And I know that's tough in today's climate with the media, which is obviously stacked against us. Not to bring up the sore thumb of that rally, but it was fun watching Trump go, these guys are terrible. that was pretty awesome. I got a lot of, and look, off topic, but I looked back there and I actually took a little video clip of the media back there, and they're all just packed up in here, and I mean, you got 100 guys on this little platform. There's no social distancing whatsoever, right? And but of course, the pundit at the news station's telling you that look at these bad Trump people that are not social distancing when their own people are not doing it either. It's pretty remarkable. But anyway, well, does anybody have anything they want to say? Or I guess we've got comments.
If you could just hold any comments or questions, we'll take as long as we need to at the end of the meeting. That way we can get the meeting out of the way and then we can talk all we want.
And if anybody has anything, suggestions for me, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I do the best that I can. So and there's always room for improvement. So if anybody ever has any suggestions for me on how I can do, I know most of you guys aren't from Newkirk, but it doesn't matter. I mean, the way I look at it is, we're a family, and if I can. I'm willing to take suggestions from anybody, bottom line. So, having said that, thanks for your time, and God bless.
Okay, and again, I appreciate everybody holding our discussion till the end. We need to like I said, we get the meeting out of the way, and then we can talk all day if you want. I've got two subjects I'm going to cover in a little more detail today. One is what you can do to increase your chances of getting out of a riot uninjured and unarrested. We're fortunate here in Kay County, we haven't had to deal with anything like this yet, but all of us in Kay County go to Wichita, Tulsa, Oklahoma City on a regular basis. And the thing about crisis situations is they jump on you right now. You're in them before you realize you're in them. And the worst thing to do is make your plan when you're under threat of bodily injury or death, and seconds count. So I'm not saying everybody should have a plan all laid out, but I wanted to give some general precepts. If you find yourself in these situations, you can go back in your memory, access this file folder, and maybe give you a little bit of advantage in the situation you're in. Now, the key to surviving in any situation is situational awareness. Put that in all caps. It's much easier to deal with a problem if you see it coming 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 minutes before it happens. Back when I was doing a lot of drinking, and I literally living in bars, people would come by the bar to look for me before they'd go to my house. And I got a real good sense of knowing there's a fight getting ready to happen 2 bar stools down. Now, I didn't leave. I didn't go to the other side of the room because I wanted to be a spectator. And it's just a matter of just kind of tuning in on what's going around. It's so easy, especially if you're hurting kids, you're talking to your wife, your husband, whatever. But it's always a good idea when you're out in public to just scan your surroundings. If you go in a building, first thing when you go in is locate the exits. So if something happens, a fire, shooting or whatever, you at least already know where the exits are. That could save you precious seconds. Now, if you see things starting to go bad, the best thing to do is get out, get away. You don't want to stand around and be a spectator, as opposed to what I used to do. That wasn't smart. Luckily, I was never in a life-threatening situation because of it. Now, if you're out on the street or in a mall or in public and all of a sudden you find yourself engulfed in a crowd of rioters, and like I said, this can happen so quick, first thing you want to do is blend in with the crowd. You don't want to stand out. So you don't want to try and run. You don't want to do anything to call attention to yourself. If they don't notice you, you've got a lot better chance of not being hurt or injured. First thing you do, if you're outside and you get involved in one of these crowds, if you can get into a building, do it. Get inside. If you're on the street, you're in the middle of it. These kind of things happen outdoors and in the street. It's much, much safer inside a building. If you can get in a building and lock the door, that's even better. But if you can't lock the door, get in the building and get to the other side of the building, put as much space between you and the problem as you can. Now, if you accidentally come up on rioters or a political demonstration, you want to walk away from the crowd in the most direct route. To avoid the crowd, but moving with the crowd. If the crowd's moving east to west, you want to move east to west. You start trying to go back against them. Number one, you're fighting the tide, and number two, you're calling attention to yourself. So move with the crowd, but look for empty pockets where you can keep edging your way towards the side of the crowd where you can get out of it. If you're going through a crowd, if you put your hands out in front of you like this, it'll work kind of like the prow of a ship. It'll help you get through. Also, if you turn sideways, you can get through a much smaller opening than you can if you're walking shoulders forward. As you are working your way to the edge, and when you get to the edge, look for a place of sanctuary. And this could be anything to get you out of the crowd and away from the group. Nothing good is going to happen in one of those crowds. Now, if you find yourself surrounded by a mob and there's a wall, get your back up to the wall. Then you've only got threats coming at you from 180 degrees, not 360 degrees. Now again, any situation is better if you see something coming than to have it just bust on your head immediately. You only have the people in front of you, they won't be behind you, and this is going to give you a lot more flexibility in what you can do. If you do go back against the wall, get stationary. Chances are the crowd, they're focused dead ahead with the group. If you can get off to the side and just stay unmoving, there's a very good chance they'll just pass you by. Once you get against the wall, that's the time to take a few seconds and get yourself organized, and then plan an escape. Some way to get even further away from the crowd or the group. And this is going to be completely dependent on a given situation, but that's the time to try and formulate your plan. First plan is get out of the crowd. If you can't get completely out, get your back to a wall, and then use your brain power to try and figure an escape route. If you're wearing a backpack or any kind of bag, ladies' purse, get that in front of you. That'll give you a little bit of shielding. If somebody's got a knife or something, it gives you something. Somebody come at you with a baseball bat, you can raise that up and it'll give you some cushion. There are soft bulletproof panels, and they now make them cut to go in backpacks. I've got one of my backpacks, I've got two level 3A soft plates in it. They're not very heavy, and one 3A plate will stop anything up to a 44 Magnum. I have yet to see any tests done when they stack them one on top of another, but better to have too much than not enough. Listen, these panels, you can buy these for anywhere from about $50 to $300, and they protective body armor has gotten a lot cheaper over the last 5 or 10 years. When I first started looking at this stuff, you had to spend over $1,000 to get a decent setup. Now you can get a full setup for $300, depending on what level of protection you want. And those of you that have kids or grandkids in your families, I'll bet most of them carry packs, don't they, for school? Why not Christmas or birthday present for your kids or your grandkids, buy them some soft, lightweight armor plates to put in their bags. These are flexible, and most backpacks have a back pocket. You put it in there, zip it up, and it doesn't even interfere with the stuff you've got in your backpack. But just think of the advantage, and if you do this, explain to the kid what it is and how to use it to protect themselves if they do find themselves in a situation at their school or wherever where there's an active shooter involved. I mean, just for $50, you can give every kid in your family a bulletproof backpack. Just get the plate and put it in the backpack they already have. I can't overemphasize how important this could be. And I've sock shopped all over. The best, least expensive place to buy quality stuff is Botash.com, BOTACH.com. You can get level 3A plates there for $50. In fact, they've got a complete vest. It's a discreet vest, doesn't have molly on it, with a front panel and a back panel soft, a level 3A for $100. The carrier and 2 plates. And I've seen tests on YouTube with theirs, and every one of their plates will stop a bullet rated higher than its actual rating.
Would you say that one more time?
Yeah, Botash, BOTACH.com. I just bought one of these. Oh, and another huge plus with this entire setup weighs 4 pounds, folks. I've got several sets of body armor. The others went anywhere from 10 to 22. This is 4 pounds. And this is something you could put on and put a 2X, or for somebody my size, I could put a 2X XL sweatshirt over it, and I don't even think it would print. But anyway, if you've got protection on board, that's the nice thing about a backpack. A lot of people are carrying backpacks, and you don't have to put anything on, but if you get in a situation, you've got a shield. Now, in addition to the everyday carry items you might have, I'd like to suggest a few other things that it would be a good idea to have with you if you get caught in a situation. A bandana. They're easy to carry. You could be in a pinch, you could use it as a tourniquet. You wet it and hold it over your face, it would give you some marginal protection against tear gas. And tear gas is something you have to deal with if you're in a situation like this, so you may have to deal with it. Also, you could use it as a bandage. Again, it's not ideal, but it's easy to carry, and it's something that in a pinch would be better than your bare hands. If you wear soft contact lenses, folks, and you get in a tear gas situation, your lenses are going to be destroyed. If you've got plastic lenses and you get exposed to tear gas, get them out of your eyes as quick as you can. And a side point to that is if you have an extra pair with you, it's a good idea to have them with you. And this is something that's amazed me my entire life. Why in the world would anybody get into a crowd wearing flip-flops? I mean, really, think about it. That's crazy. Good solid shoes, boots, steel-toe boots. If you know you're going into a high-risk area, I would wear steel-toe boots. Also, I use a walking stick a lot now because I've got bad knees and I'm a chicken going for surgery. I've got a 3-foot ash walking stick I bought years ago, and I used to carry it on the airplanes. At the time, I didn't need an orthopedic device, but that's how people perceive it. In fact, I actually practiced before I went to the airport how to walk with a walking stick. I would always get an aisle seat, and if something happened on that aircraft, I'm on the aisle, I'm not stuck on an inboard seat, and I've got a club with me. So if you're going into a crowded situation and you've got a walking stick or a cane, take it with you. is amazing. I've been in many crowded areas with a walking stick, and people automatically give you a little extra space. So, again, just a few minor points. Now, the other thing, we've been seeing a lot of this on the media lately. You're driving down a freeway and all of a sudden your car's surrounded by a human, flesh and blood roadblock. This is something you could run into anywhere. Now the first, what's that? The first thing is to avoid it if you can. I personally, when I'm driving, if I'm in town, I'm driving a couple of blocks ahead of my car. If I'm on the freeway, I'm driving anywhere from a quarter of a mile to a mile ahead of me, depending on how heavy the traffic is. If you're on the freeway in Tulsa and you come over a rise and you see a half mile down blockage across the road, stop and do whatever you need to reverse your direction. Now, I realize driving the wrong way on the freeway is a bad idea, but it's a lot less of a bad idea than having your car surrounded by a bunch of crazy rioters, rocking the car, flipping it, maybe throwing Molotov cocktails on you, pounding your side windows or your windshield with a tire iron. Reverse your direction carefully, slowly, and drive back to the next exit and get off. If you can't get off, you're putting more distance between you and the problem, and that's going to be a benefit. Okay? So, once they're around your car and you're surrounded, then it's a whole different ballgame. Now, personally, even though we have some law enforcement here, what I would like to do is just plow into them. Just run the SOBs over. However, and please understand, I got a little static at the Republican meeting the other night when I talked about this. I'm not telling people not to do that. What I want to do is give the people in this room an alternative way to get out of the problem without committing a felony. Okay? And the way things have been going, a lot of the law enforcement, the city administrations in these cities, they're only arresting people who are defending themselves against these crazy rioters. So, again, I'm not trying to talk you out of just running the folks over, but be advised that if you do that, you very likely will end up in handcuffs and charged with multiple felonies. Yeah, well, and it just, plus, even if you get out of it and don't go to jail, it's going to wreck you financially. So, now, first thing you want to do is honk your horn, because any further action that you take, if it does go to court, your attorney can argue that you were giving them warning. Now, this isn't foolproof, but at least it may get some of them out of the way, and it may help cover your butt criminally with the police. So, give them a horn. Now, as long as they're just standing around your vehicle, if you run into them, that's a felony. It's called vehicular assault or homicide if you kill them, I guess. So if they're just around your car hollering and screaming at you, you pretty much have to just sit there and take it. Now, that changes if they assault you or your vehicle. They start rocking the car, pounding on the glass, trying to set you on fire, climbing on the hood, then you can be in fear of your life. What you want to do then is put your car, when you're in these situations, first off, turn off any outside ventilation, because if tear gas gets deployed, that's going to suck it right into your car. So you want to make sure the ventilation is either on recirculate or off completely. If you roll your window down just a crack, about a half inch, it makes it much harder to break. And I don't know the physics on this, but my best guess is if it's rolled all the way up the frame, it's rigid on all four sides. If it's down just a little bit, you've got one side that's not rigid, and my guess is that allows the glass to flex more before it cracks. Kind of makes sense. Again, that's just my speculation, but I think that's the deal. You want to accelerate steadily and slowly, very slowly. Think push them out of the way, not run them over. You want to use your vehicle to push them out of the way. But one thing you need to consider, if you want to hit these people at a high speed and run over them, you can damage your vehicle. Then all of a sudden you're 200 feet down the road and you're in an immobilized vehicle and you just pissed off, excuse my language, folks, a whole bunch of bad folks. So move forward slowly and steadily. Once you start moving, do not stop. If you stop, they're going to mob around your vehicle again. If you're moving forward, at least some of those people will have enough sense to step off to the side. So instead of having 50 people in front of you, you've only got 20. And it's a lot easier to move 20 people out of the way than it is 50. But slowly, steadily, and accelerating very slightly. And as soon as you're clear of the crowd, then floor it and get out. And I said the key is push. Keep that in mind. You want to push them out of the way. You don't want to run over them. Keep your doors locked, obviously, and your seatbelt off. The seatbelt to protect you against some kind of high-speed accident. If you're dead stop, it's no protection at all. And if something happens, you have to evacuate your vehicle. And you always want to stay with your vehicle unless it's disabled or it's on fire. And you don't want to have to be scrambling for your seatbelt if all of a sudden your vehicle's engulfed in flames and you need to bail out. Also, if you're carrying a firearm in a normal 3 o'clock position on your right hip or your left hip, depending on your dominant hand, you want to make it easier to get to. Also, if the car is disabled, like I said, or under fire tag, you're better off taking your chances on foot than you are with your vehicle. This is one of my pet peeves. Carry your weapon. If you carry a weapon, carry it on your person. Having it stuck to a magnet underneath the dash or in a seat pocket hanging in front of your driver's seat or in the glove compartment of the console. If something happens, you have to evacuate your vehicle instantly. You may forget your gun. And then all of a sudden now you got a crazy mob and one of them's armed with your own weapon. I can't think of anything more embarrassing than being shot with your own weapon. Yeah. So, I don't know. To me, plus I don't like leaving my car, my gun in my car. It's the reason I don't have any gun stickers on my car. I've had a weapon stolen out of a truck in Albuquerque years ago. And not only is it hurt financially, but I've got a weapon that's my responsibility out there on the street, and who knows who's got it. There's other forms of roadblocks you need to kind of be aware of. Sometimes these people will steal cars and they block the road with them. Again, avoidance is the key if you can. If not, if they had it blocked with a bunch of Civics and Priuses and I was in a four-wheel drive F-350, I know what I'd do is I'd push the cars out of the way. But that's something you're going to have to consider. And again, you're going to damage your vehicle and you may disable it. So going that route is something that I would give second thoughts to. If you are going to try to get through, if their cars are parked like this, go between them. Don't try to push a whole car sideways. It's a lot easier to pivot 2 cars out 90 degrees to get through than it is to try and push a car out the wrong way. Now, other things you might want to think about, a dash cam. If you've got a dash cam and something like this happens, you've got a video evidence that you did things right. Otherwise, it's going to be your word against 50 crazy riders that'll say anything to get you in trouble. So a dash cam is a good idea. Failing that, get your phone out and hit record. Try to get as much of the picture as you can, but if nothing else, you'll be recording the audio part of it. If you do end up in court, anything you've got to justify your defense of yourself is going to be a plus. I would not ever pull my gun unless my life was an imminent threat. I don't believe in pulling a gun and waving around and scare people or impress them. If I ever pull my gun, somebody's going to get shot. So keep that in mind. If you pull your gun out and you're not ready to use it, they will take it away from you, and they will kill you with your own weapon. And that's happened so many times. I've had a lot of people, a number of females over the years, because then I'm into firearms, think about buying their first weapon, asking my advice. The first thing I ask them, are you ready to kill somebody to protect yourself or your family? If they have any hesitation at all, I tell them, don't buy a weapon. They're only for killing. They're not for scaring people. When the police arrive, excuse me, Jay, but I'm going to cover that. When the police arrive, give them your name and tell them you're not going to make any statements until your attorney's present. This is absolutely vital. It's my understanding, JJ, correct me if I'm wrong here, anything you say at the scene of the police, if it's to your benefit, it's not going to be admissible into court because it's hearsay. If it's against you, they will use it. So if you have an attorney, call him. If you don't, wait until you can reach them. And if you tell police this, they will back off and leave you alone. If they don't, you can record it again, because that's what they're required to do. If you want to talk to an attorney, they need to back off and wait till your attorney's there. Is that correct, JJ? Yeah. Okay. That pretty much covers what I wanted to cover. We got all afternoon, so now the floor is open. What I'm going to do, since Steve is videoing this, when y'all ask a question, I'm going to repeat it, and if you have a comment, speak loudly so the microphone will pick it up.
With the Second Amendment club that you have,
Yeah.
this organization, is it statewide, is it active over in the Tulsa area?
Yes, we have a Tulsa and an Osage County. In fact, I went to the Osage meeting Scott took last week. We have, Kay County, I think, was the third chapter. I think we've got about 16 or 17 now. We have one that's gearing up in Enid. Gene Cropper's the coordinator over there. And if you have friends or family and there's not a chapter in their county, if you'll contact me, I can put you in touch with the people that can kind of help you get a chapter started in a county. What we need is a coordinator, which is kind of like what I do, is somebody in the county that kind of helps get things organized, and group meetings and whatnot together.
On the state level, how is the communication broadcast? Via email, text?
Right now, within the club,
Yes.
right now it's primarily on Facebook. That's one of the things I'm nervous about. That's why I'm talking to everybody about Parler, PARLER.com. But that's the primary communication. But we've got a sign-in sheet back there. If you'll put down your name, your email address, and your phone number, we do have an email list that we send out. We just have to have your contact information to do that. Also, Mr. Glenn Coe back there, I'm sure a lot of you already know him. He set up, if you want to join, we've got membership starting from $25 a year and on up. It's money well spent, folks. We make things happen. We've got the bills that Brian mentioned earlier. We also just, a couple of weeks ago, the governor signed with Senate Bill 1081, which is an anti-red flag law.
First one in the country.
Yes, exactly, the very first one. And to give you a little detail on that, I've spoken to a district judge, I've spoken to the Ok2A state attorney, and I've also spoken with Senator Nathan Dahm, who was the author of that bill. And what it does, it prevents a municipality. Now again, this is something we probably don't have to worry a whole lot up here in Kay County, but people down in Norman, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, maybe Stillwater, one of these liberal city governments, before this bill passed, could have passed a red flag act that applied within their municipality. For those of you that aren't familiar with what a red flag law is, somebody, and in some jurisdictions, they'll do this on an anonymous call. But somebody goes to the police and said, Joe Smith over there has guns and he's a danger to himself or others. Or an ex-wife would say, he's threatened me and I'm in fear of my life. If a judge, under a red flag law, if a judge signs off on that, the police and the SWAT team shows up at your house without a search warrant, and they can come in and seize all of your weapons, and they don't have to even give you a receipt. I know people whose weapons collections are in the six figures. I've got a friend in Albuquerque, it's got a $35,000 English side-by-side 12-gauge. And they can come pick that up, throw it in the back of a pickup truck. No receipt, so you can guess how many of your weapons you're going to get back if you ever do get them back. This is done without any due process. The only due process, and I put that in quotes, is you have within 10 days of when the weapons are seized to go to the judge and plead your case. And like I said, some jurisdictions do this on nothing more than an anonymous call. So our anti-red flag law here prohibits any municipality or county or any subdivision of the state of Oklahoma from doing that. Now, it's called preempting. Oklahoma can't preempt federal law. So this is something we have to watch out for on the federal level. If this passed federally, then we would have no choice in the matter here in Oklahoma. Yeah. Well, yeah. Amen to that.
Speaking of the federal level, what access and what type of contributions? Is there a lobbyist with this group that does contribute, i.e. with the NRA or with?
Well, we support the NRA. I keep my membership up in the NRA, but I've got some issues. Yeah, I've got some issues with some of their positions. They're not as hardcore as I'd like. Gun Owners of America is another. They're a good hardcore group. We have a full-time lobbyist, Mr. Don Spencer. He's the president of Ok2A, and he is at the state legislature every day. They're in session pushing these bills. And in the last 7-8 years, we've gotten over 60 pro-gun bills passed. In fact, 5-6 years ago, Oklahoma was 38th of the 50 states in gun-friendly laws. We're now number 5, and I expect us to move up maybe to number 1, as Adrian said, with this anti-red flag law, the first one in the state. Yeah, Glenn?
I've got two things.
Yes.
But acquaintance of mine was arrested in Florida for having a body armor and a weapon at the same time. That's some obscure laws that most people don't know. You're not allowed to have a weapon and body armor on the same time.
In Oklahoma, that doesn't apply.
Okay.
Must be a state
It
law.
was also in the federal books too. That needs to be looked into. You cannot have body armor and have a weapon at the same time. Right. Oh, I don't agree with it, but that's obscure law that's in most states and on the federal.
That's the first I've heard of it, there being a federal law. I'll check into it. Thank you. Thanks for the heads up.
Second thing too
Yeah.
is, on the education part of this, the Second Amendment was strategically placed in the Bill of Rights on purpose. It's not just a spot holder. It was there because the First Amendment was your personal guaranteed rights.
Right.
And then the question was, how would that be enforced? That's when they put the Second Amendment in there. So
Yes,
education,
exactly.
I'm a school teacher, I'm a retired school teacher. I teach Buckman High School. The educational part is the important part of this. The Second Amendment was strategically placed and needs to be shown that it's there to protect your personal liberty.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's something you need to battle because I live in a liberal world.
Amen. We all
School
are.
teachers are all extremely liberal.
Yeah.
And everyone in here don't realize it, but you have a voice on what teacher you're getting hired. You need to attend these school board meetings. You need to, as a group, attend these school board meetings. You need to show solidarity. You need to let them say, now you're not going to get these school teachers out of Miami and San Francisco and bring them in here and teach our children.
Yeah, that's the
It's
problem.
hard to say it like that.
Well, no.
I've been there. I have taught in inner city schools. I teach Tonga, and I know how liberal all, I say all, that's that word, most schools in
The educational system in this country is one of the biggest problems we've got. Speaking of the Second Amendment, the way I've always pictured it, if the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is a rolling stone arch, the Second Amendment is the keystone at the top of that arch that holds everything together. You pull the Second Amendment out and the rest of the Constitution is worth nothing. Zero.
That's what's placed for
Yeah. Yeah, Tony, and I appreciate your patience. You've had several things said.
Comments for any of the speakers.
Yes, yeah.
My comment is for Mr. Still. And I want to say, sir, I appreciate your gentlemanlike comments that you made, complimentary and towards Mr. Gimbel. I feel like sometimes when we're in an election period on both sides of the parties, people are always pointing the finger and slandering one another. And I've had enough of that. And I want you to know this, that if there's a couple of candidates that I'm looking at, and they may have the same values and beliefs I have, I'm going to look at what they say to see if they sound like they got character. And I appreciated your character.
I just wanted to maybe say something that other times talking with. As we were walking out the door, when you came to get me this morning, I said, you know, the reason that it seems like everything that's happening in the world today, and forgive you, I don't mean to offend anybody, but the leftists, who are the ones that are speaking out against the things that they don't agree with. And nobody, myself, we're not speaking out. But if we did, then we would be accused of all the things they're already accusing us of being, you know, racist or whatever. How do we really go forward? If we have something we want to say, and Brian, really, you started this in your speech, and I.
Well, that's a very good question. I think, I think everybody in here probably feels that same sentiment to some degree. Do you agree? I think, me included. And the real simple truth of it, the simple answer is this. You just gotta get past it. Don't care. I don't care. This racist word has been used so much that it's lost its meaning. It means nothing to me, and you have to let it mean nothing to you. Words only have power if you allow them to. That's the beautiful thing about it. Stop letting it have power. Ignore them. Okay, great. You know, don't let it. That's the problem. We've become so emotionally invested in what other people think of us, and that's a problem. And you know, the gentleman teacher was, you know, touched on. I think some of that comes from public ed. I'm a product of that environment. You know, we're put in this little cage and told, you know, oh, we got to act this way and we got to care what I don't care anymore. I just don't care. You know, people don't like what I'm doing, I don't like it. At least I'll sleep at night knowing I did the best that I could for my children. I'm okay with that. I don't care what maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't care what you think of me. I'm doing what's right by my family, by my state, by my country, by God. I'm okay with that. I can live with that. Everybody in this room is going to have to get to that point. And having touched on that, Mr. Otap here pointed out a thing. There's a sheriff by the name of Chris West, super awesome guy, Canadian County. He actually put out a call for a posse in Canadian County of citizens. Genius move, I think. It's genius move. And if all sheriffs don't want to do that, I said, and I touched on it, a different, maybe social media, whatever platform, to get together, to get a consensus of people like us, so that if people need called, we have numbers to call. We have a way, we have an address, we can go pick you up, whatever is necessary at that point in contact. And I think that, you know, if the sheriffs won't do it, we should do it for ourselves. Stop relying on everybody else. We're here today because we took the initiative to be here. And I will try to do the best in the future. I'll be here with Terry in the future to help put something together so that we can move forward in that. And that your friends and my friends and your family and
Go ahead.
Well, I think the big picture point that you're making is that collectively, people in this room, and maybe said will agree with this, we know that we are the first responders, and police are our backup.
That's right. Right, and we've led, yes, exactly. And that's.
When Central South, the police are minutes away, if they're coming at all, particularly from the rural areas.
Right. Well, not to mention, if they shut down parts of town.
Or if, you know, if we live in some crazy liberal utopia, fantasy land where they want to defund the police.
Yeah.
Minneapolis City Council voted unanimously to abolish the entire police department. And just yesterday, I saw a story posted, they've already announced, they've got a Sharia police force that's gonna take to the streets in Minneapolis.
What could go wrong?
And they've had this for months in New York City. They've got a
It worked
separate,
out flawlessly.
in New York City, they now, in effect, work going right now, they have a Islamic police department. The guys, it's a Sharia enforcement. The guys' uniforms from a block away look just like NYPD uniforms. The paint schemes and colors on the cars are identical to the New York Police Department colors. This is going on right now today, folks, in New York City, and it's going to be, it may be the only law enforcement agency on the streets in Minneapolis. I'll tell you,
Already, what about my passport? I do immigrate to CHOP or CHAZ or whatever they're calling it in Seattle.
Take it over. Well, you know, guys, that's what I started out, and I hate always touching on negatives, because who wants to live that way? But we have to face the reality that we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. It doesn't matter, you know, I used to sit around and try to blame this generation or that or mine or whoever. It really doesn't matter. Bottom line is, we're in trouble, and this is our country. And you know, and if we don't do something, we don't get organized, we're in trouble. I mean, the ship's going down. The Titanic has hit the iceberg.
One of the things I have that I'm very upset about right now, and I don't understand the whys and how it can continue. We were talking about our veterans that gave their lives and the hundreds of thousands of men that are dead. Or what I'm getting ready to say is this: how can they have the audacity, and how can they take down our statues and our things of history that only document this pathway of our great country?
Well,
I know
we have to
we have to understand.
We have to understand that this didn't start yesterday. First,
I know that.
we have to acknowledge that. Probably the people in this room do. So I'm just saying it for good measure. Yeah, I get excited about it too. Don't be sorry.
Yes.
It's a damn good thing. It's a damn good thing to get excited about.
Kids that have only received participation trophies, they tear down trophies
This is
on the actual win.
This is the and there's a very valid point to that. It's an overarching thing of we're now in a generation, and we are in a generation of everybody gets a trophy.
Governor Stitt yesterday spoke in politics. He stated specifically that he's not going to allow rioting, vandalism, destruction in Oklahoma. And I believe him.
Yeah.
He's not going to allow in Oklahoma what's been going on in Seattle and Minneapolis.
He said as soon as, basically, he said as, well, he called in the National Guard. The mayor fell down on that job.
We haven't had any statutes uprooted here.
Yeah, well, hold on. That wasn't Mr. Stitt's fault. He shouldn't have even had to get involved. Had the mayor done his job, I'm calling him out on video right now, as a mayor, if he had done his job, Mr. Stitt wouldn't have had to get involved at all. But since he didn't do his job, Mr. Stitt rolled out the National Guard. And that's what he's saying, is if it gets out of hand, they will step in, I think is what he was trying to get at. We're not going to tolerate it in Oklahoma. And I support him in that. Yeah. Back to your point, though, is what we need to understand about this, guys, and this is, in my opinion, the crux of it, and I don't want to get too long-winded here, but I don't know if these are holdovers from the 1950s. These are beatniks that are running stuff now that brought a Marxist ideology. I mean, you can look back on, was it Gorbachev? All these people saying, we will defeat the United States but we won't do it militarily, because they couldn't. Because
We could overcome our country without firing a single bullet.
that's, and what's he done? What have they done? What's happening right before our eyes? This is
Education.
This is not spontaneous. This is not spontaneous. This is planned, it's organized, it's financed, and this is a Marxist coup going on against the United States Constitution right now. And we need to acknowledge it. We need to start telling everybody we know. And yes, and our media is complicit. Well, and I actually had made a social, sometimes I get a little salty on social media, sometimes I'm shitty, but, I'm kidding. You know, there's, and we can debate who can try these people, and I suggested the UCMJ, but that's because I believe that it's an act of aggression against our country, and regardless of whether they're wearing a uniform or not, it is a military act of aggression. A coup against our country, and there are politicians that should be subject to that, and I hope to see some indictments rolled down at some point. I mean, we all, you know, we say lock her up like a little slogan, but there's some truth to it. You violated the
Riders in OKC. I saw that.
Yes, well, I'm talking about the upper levels, but yes, that's a good place to start too. But at the upper levels, you got, I mean, the American people, and myself included, probably you guys included, have no confidence in what's going on at this point. I mean, we've seen these people break the law. The FBI had a coup, our own FBI, which, I mean, if you look at the roots of the FBI, that was just support anyway, but they had tried to have a coup against a presidential election. And nothing's been done about it. I mean, we're in trouble.
And just this last week, they had more files come out, and they've proven that Obama and Biden, Obama was behind this. At a meeting in the Washington Oval Office.
The right people investigated, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Well, and I hope
I had riots if they called Obama out in handcuffs.
so be it. We're already having riots. What's the deal?
Yeah.
But, you know, no one in this room, and thankfully we live in Oklahoma, and thankfully we now have constitutional carry. No one in this room or abroad should live in fear of their bodily being. Nor should you. Walk with pride. Believe what you want to believe. That's the beauty of America. You don't have to agree with me. I don't have to agree with you. But the minute you threaten me, the minute you put your hands on me, the minute you make an act of aggression against me, I will respond. And
Americans need to remember that.
amen. A lot of people gave blood, and if we don't stand up, like you said, if we're the torchbearers here. If we don't stand up and start telling people that it's wrong, that why are you doing this? There's a demographic, there's a section of young society that may be out of reach, I don't know. Maybe they'll grow out of it, maybe they won't, I don't know. But they have no respect for the sacrifices that have been made. They have no respect for our country. They have no respect for anybody else. And ironically, all the people crying for socialism and Marxism are generally not very big contributors to society.
Well,
Go figure.
They're all dumb socialists.
Yeah.
Very same situation and trials that are going on right now during the early 70s and Vietnam War. They tried very same.
It's worse now.
Well, it is. But this was the 50s and 60s, then again during Nam, and now we're going through it again, and it's the same bad actors and with the same intentions and the same cost. We have to acknowledge it.
But we can't be complacent.
I agree.
The major difference between then and now is now a lot of the people in authority at the local and the national level are on board with these people. That's the difference now. Like I said earlier, somebody defend themselves against these rioters, and they're the ones that's most likely hauled into jail. This happened in Albuquerque. Did any of you see that video that happened in Albuquerque? That's the city I left to move back to Toccoa. I knew this stuff was coming, and I got out 3 years before it started. The mayor of Albuquerque, the same day that happened at the museum there, the mayor of Albuquerque announced that from now on, they're going to be sending out counselors on some of the 911 calls. That will probably last until they've got 2 or 3 or 4 dead counselors at a scene. Also, just think about this, right now, and correct me if I'm wrong with this, JJ, a 911 call comes in, it goes directly to the police department, right now, within seconds. Now they've added another level of bureaucracy between the call and a response. Now it's going to have to go from the woman on the phone or the guy on the phone to some bureaucrat, and he's going to make a decision whether to send a counselor or to send an armed police officer. So essentially, in seconds count, and right here, I can't imagine, considering most government bureaucrat organizations, this not adding at least 2 or 3 or maybe 5 minutes to response time on a crisis situation.
It's insane.
8 months in social work.
Yeah.
Guys, a question, I don't know if anybody else in here, you guys members?
So, yeah, sort of.
Well, it's just a name, somebody who's prepared, spends a portion of your time being prepared for a bad event.
I was out, I went on my 2-year-old daughters who live out in Colorado, and one thing there, when the pandemic happened, they called me up immediately and said, "Oh, Dad, you were right."
I asked that, yes, exactly, and I'm guilty. Well, you know, when COVID hit, I was like, I didn't have to leave, I didn't have to go to the store. Well, the toilet paper thing, thankfully my wife had bought quite a bit right before this kicked off. So I was good. But what do you guys think about having a topic for a meeting, and I'm just trying to help Terry out here in the future, we could cover some prepping stuff, and at a future meeting. Is that something that people would be interested in, maybe? Tips and stuff, that maybe help people?
So everybody here have my phone number and email address. I'll give it to you verbally. If you come up to me afterwards, I'll give you a card. It's Terry Thompson. My phone is 580-670-0357. It's 580-670-0357. If you got one of my handbills, all that information's at the bottom. My email address is Terry.Thompson at Ok2A. Terry.Thompson, Ok2A at, Gmail. Look at my own card. I only use that for Ok2A. Yes, sir.
Terry, you put out these meetings online or what? Because I mean, I'm a member, but I didn't get notice at all. I started out this meeting yesterday.
Yeah, I've done my best to post it, promote it. I usually put up handbills in Blackwell and Park City. I just didn't have time. I've got some other stuff going on.
We're supposed to stand on.
Yes. Yeah.
We'll try to get more organized.
Pastor Jack?
You know, if nothing else, that's a good reason to have that list like you were talking about.
Exactly.
I'm the pastor here, and we highly support, I don't know if you
They do.
We have, they walk in here to try to hurt us, they'll leave about 7 or 8, 9, 10 days. So, you know, this is a good thing. I work in the police department, I do all their maintenance. I also am a biblical counselor, licensed biblical counselor. And so I talk to people all over, and you would be amazed at the lack of understanding that people have of this. And this group here is the group that can promote this in this town. I really appreciate the brother talking about education, because they're not teaching our children real history. No. We're rewriting history.
That's why they're calling people Nazis, have no idea what they are.
That's right. Yeah. If you take your iPhone, take a picture of that right there. And then about 2 weeks before we have this meeting, begin to put it up on social media everywhere. Make a flyer out of it and stick it up somewhere. And I know for a fact we do big events in this town. And I know for a fact if you get it out there, people will come. But if they don't know what's going on, they won't come. So we try to promote I start about 2 weeks before and I try to promote it. And then about a week before, or a few days before, we really promote it. Put it up on all your social links. And if you know who's going to be the speaker or something like that, then list that, say, come to the Ok2A meeting, speak will be, Mr. Stith, and whatever
just promote, because we're clerks that are carrying this. So I just want to encourage you, and I really want to thank you guys for being here, because this is a privilege for us. We're honored when you come. Gary, thank you for all.
Thank you, Press Jack. If everybody will get their phone out now, this meeting will always be on the fourth Saturday of each month. Put it on your calendar. It'll always be at 12 noon, and it'll always be here at New Harmony Christian Fellowship. Thank you again, Pastor Jack. Yes?
Just remind people, if you're not registered to vote, register.
That was my next point.
Sorry.
No, I thank you for bringing it up.
Encourage your friends to vote.
Mr. Coe, Reverend Coe back there, in addition to being able to sign up as membership, is there anyone here that's not registered to vote? No? Wow, I'm proud of you. Okay, well, if you have a family member or friend that's not registered, we have some forms back there. You're welcome to take one to them to get them registered. Yes, Adrian?
One last question for the mayor here. What are your thoughts, particularly as a mayor of the municipality, about some of the moves we've seen lately to weaken some of our state preemption of laws, allow municipalities to have the authority to designate areas under their control as gun-free zones, or to allow to criminalize or to make a distinction between open versus concealed carry in public?
Well, that's a multifaceted question. One is, I would say, some of you guys have already told this too, some I have not. When this thing kicked off, this COVID craziness, I'll admit, I didn't know if this was going to be serious or not. You're China releasing a virus, and it's like something out of a horror movie, really. And I thought, man, this is the big one. This is what I spent the last 10 years getting ready for, right? God told me something was going to happen in my lifetime, and I intended to prepare for it. And so I thought maybe this was the big one. And thankfully, it wasn't. I mean, it just wasn't. The numbers weren't there. I was privy to some meetings at the Capitol with some guys in the health and public safety when this thing was going off. And at the beginning of this, and I'll get to your question. I just want to preface with this. We started this thing out with 500 tests in the entire state. So when this thing rolled out, and this is the part that bothers me, and I knew this, I was in the meeting, had 500 tests in the entire state. We didn't get more tests for weeks. So if this thing had already rolled into our state, and the contagion rate was as high as it was, there's no possible way that anyone could have known how many people have actually touched it, how many people have been sick, how many people were asymptomatic carriers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's no way. The numbers were already out there. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle at that point, and we knew it. And, I likely had it. My family likely had it. We had a respiratory thing, and I was exposed at the Capitol. And so it wasn't fun, but it wasn't that bad. Having said that, as far as the gun areas, that's the reason I brought that up, was because in our city, they're like, oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I said, nothing to do. We shut down the city buildings, which we have the purview to do that. We cut back our own staff. We can limit access to the city building, and we did. Drop your bill here, because at that point we didn't know. I didn't know. I knew that the numbers weren't going to be accurate, but I didn't know how severe the threat was. So we did that, but from that point I said, we can't tell people to shut their businesses down, guys. And I talked to some folks at the highest level of our state government, and I said, not shutting the town down. Not doing it. So if we're going to have a problem, then we're going to have a problem. But I don't have the constitutional authority to tell my businesses that they have to shut. It's just that we don't have that power. I don't care what this Emergency Powers Act that they passed back in the day does not usurp the United States Constitution. I don't care how many people vote on it. It's wrong. It's unconstitutional. I don't care how many Supreme Court justices you get to rule on it. I don't care how many legislators you get to vote on it. I don't care what the situation is. You cannot restrict the free movement of American citizens and the ability to do business. You can't do it. It's a basic principle. It's a basic faction of who we are. So having said that, we didn't do anything with private business, and I took some fire for that. Like I said, I don't care. Vote me out. But when it shakes down, I hope that history's on my side on that. But I guess it's old saying, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And it's just a decision that you have to make, And thankfully, God put me in this position for this time, and I did the best I could with it. And so having said that, Adrian, I don't believe that cities have the ability to restrict constitutional movement unless it's a public access building. Now, should they be able to say in this part of town? Again, if you own a business and you don't want people carrying in your business, that's your private property. You have that right. You don't want Brian coming in with this. I also have the right to say, you know what, I'm going to go over here to this business. You don't welcome me? That's fine. That's your property. I respect you. You respect me. We'll part ways and we'll do our business. Government doesn't have any right to be telling anyone, him, what to do with their business or this part of town. You're robbing people of their constitutional rights. So what's next? Here's the deal. We've let them get away with the Second Amendment for so long that it's like a whipped dog. Just expect it. Okay, don't take any more. We'll just shut up over here. Just don't take any more of our guns or whatever it is. And instead, but what would people say if they said, you know what? The press isn't allowed in this section of town. Freedom of press is no longer allowed over here. Well, I bet they'd be squalling and crying and kicking in, What's really upsetting to me is what we've allowed to happen to the church during this COVID nonsense. Whether you're a believer or not, you should believe that people have the right to peacefully assemble. Whether it's in God's name or anybody else's name, you cannot tell us that we cannot gather. This is insanity. And if this is not part of a collective coup, I don't know what is.
You can't worship in the church, but you can burn it down.
Yeah. You can get out right, and the emperor, I'm sorry, I don't want to keep you here all day, but the emperor obviously had no clothes on here last week or the week before when they said, when health officials say, on the news, national news, health officials say, it's okay to riot, you can gather for that, but you can't go to church, and you can't go to a Trump rally, boys. You can't do, because COVID will be everywhere then. But if you're rioting, no, COVID's not coming. Why don't they just, no funerals except for George Floyd. Why didn't they just put a banner out that said this whole thing's a ruse? Because it is, at this point. Anybody at this point that goes along with a shutdown, you're asking for it. Anybody who agrees to have their rights restricted, at this point, the first time people said, we love our neighbors, we love our community, we're going to try to be helpful. The jig's up. This is nonsense at this point. And they've admitted it. And so,
40 million people out of work.
They've destroyed our country. This was not an accident, guys.
It's interesting how the coronavirus numbers went up after the Trump rally, but they did not go up coincidentally after the collective gathering of individuals.
Well, that's because they changed the incubation period. Yes, and you went from 2 weeks to
Right now, the number of cases are going up and the deaths are down. Yes, Pat? Yes. You don't need to stand up.
Comment about burning the church, I'm gonna tell you up front, if they try to burn our church, I'm gonna be one of the first ones here, and I'm gonna be killing people.
There is such thing as righteous anger, ma'am.
And don't say anything to the police until your attorney.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Use a revolver.
Yes.
Go up.
Say again? Yeah. Well, I keep hearing about church, so I haven't heard about any boss being closed.
Well, even if they weren't, then I respect that they weren't closed down. At least they had the cojones enough to stand up and say, we're not doing it. I'll give them that respect.
Slave trader. And slavery is alive and well in the world right now, in parts of Africa, and in almost all of the traditional Islamic countries.
So, anyway,
I'm not saying that I don't feel, that I know that the COVID virus has happened and it's been terrible on all this. But the other thing that's always in the back of my mind too is this has been one hell of a test for socialism.
Absolutely.
Ken, somebody used the phrase, this is a test run.
Hey, so where's the from manual? Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yep.
And that's exactly what they're doing. And you have to be able to see through it, you have to be able to let those who can, you have to be able to push them in the right direction, because this is a ruse at this point. I mean, when they come out on national television and say you can go to a riot, but you can't go to church, it's insanity.
Let me tell you somebody who's, I've lived for over 40 years now without a TV set. And let me tell you, you want to bring some peace into your life, get rid of your television sets. I'm serious. Even all of the programming is extreme liberal propaganda, from kids' cartoons, even the commercials. If there's a family in a commercial, more often than not, it's a mother and a couple of kids, no father. If there is a father, he's a complete friggin' idiot, and he'd wreck the whole family if it wasn't for the wife or the daughter. So you can't get away from it. If you've got a TV, I mean, it's amazing how much more peace I have in my life not having that idiot box in the house. I'm one of those people, if I got a TV, it's on all the time. So it's like when I smoked, I was smoking 5 packs of cigarettes a day, I had to quit. When I drank, I got drunk every night. If I got a TV, I'm gonna watch it all the time. So the only way I can control those things is to stay completely away from them. One other thing I'd like to bring up, I see people all the time, if you've got an auto loader, a semi-automatic handgun, or rifle, they're loading like this. Every shell they put in their gun has their thumbprint on it and their DNA on it. I never handle ammo, ever, without having gloves on. Just a word, a lot of times people don't think about it, but if I'm in a situation where I've got to defend myself, I would just as soon not leave identifying brass laying all over the scene. Just FYI. Yeah. Well, when you don't have a TV and you live alone, see the investigator back here. When you live alone and you never own a TV, you got plenty of time to come up with all this crazy paranoid shit. The thing is, folks, it's not paranoia if they're really after you. That's right. And they are after us. Make no mistake about that. More questions, comments? Yeah, Ray?
Gary, first let me identify myself. I was born here in Hospital. I spent 42 years in California. I was a business manager for Partners Grant. We live in this. I have a son in California. I was a co-officer. And my grandson is 2 years old right now. And this suggestion goes out to all of us because we have family that goes out on the road. Where we live is in a place called Ridgecrest, California, which is on the edge of the desert, and 110 miles from Bakersfield, Lancaster, and my daughter and grandkids live in Lancaster. She's quite going back and forth like that. And she asked my son one day, she says, she's always scared of me. And she said, PWP in California is, well, but anyway, so he told her, he says, that she carried out a bedroom for 30 days. She lay in the seat, and she asked him one day, what's going to happen, if I get stopped speeding? He said, you're going to get stopped speeding. But he says, if you put a pillow over it in the center of the seat, I'm going to write the shotgun over it. You put a pillow over that firearm, and it's good. It's pretty good, but he says, get stopped, don't comment about it, if they're not even going to ask you, they'll give you a ticket or a warning, and you're not looking like a criminal. So he says, but they ask, yes, identify it, tell them that it's loaded, and 99% saying the body is on. And two weeks ago, we had a discussion on someone's house, and there were 4 officers involved in this conversation about what happened because of all this stuff. And one of the guys, one of the officers said, you know what, it didn't really start that, it started with the media. I think we should have heard.
Yeah.
A lot of the news media I want to watch, but I know it's gonna be it. Thank you.
And in relation to that, Bill, anytime you've got a gun on you, keep it in a holster that covers the trigger guard. Because there's been, anything can happen. If your weapon is in a holster and you got the trigger guard covered with that holster, it's about 100 times safer. Anyone else?
Just thank you for.
Oh, this is my pleasure. Thank you. Fourth Saturday of every month at 12 noon, same location. Tell your friends, come next time, bring a friend or two with you. If you see me posting a flyer or something on the website, please share it. Glenn, as I mentioned, he's got memberships back there. Also, he's got paperwork for the Ponca City Rifle and Pistol Club. If you're a shooter and you're not a member, it is hands down the best facility in the northern central part of Oklahoma. We've got 50, 100, 200, and 300 rifle ranges, rifle ranges. We've got multiple pistol bays. We've got a shotgun area. You can throw clays and shoot. And we've also got a target set up for if you want to pattern your shotgun. It's a great deal, and you can see Glenn if you're interested. It's about 6 miles from here, right, Glenn? Yeah, 6 miles, halfway between here and Talkwall.
Also, guys, I've probably already told some of you this, but we're gonna be trying to put together a long-range shoot. It'll be just north of Newkirk. JJ, you'll obviously get an invite. I'm gonna invite a lot of my political friends. I've got the lieutenant governor said he would come, try to get the other state to come too.
What's his name? It's not JJ, it's the other guy.
Anyway, so, and guys, let's try to make a conscious effort between now and next month to try to be more active. And let's get people involved because, if there was ever a time, it's now.
Amen, brother.
And so, get some people out here next time. I'll try to help with Terry.
Brian's gonna be involved every month with me.
The election cycle for the next, till next Tuesday, so I'm pretty booked up till after that.
Anybody want a card?
Let's get organized and let's get something good for our county right here.
Yeah, Ted.
Has anybody come to the mayor of Ponca City? What's his take on this?
I talked to him yesterday. In fact, I invited him to the meeting.